Hi everyone, welcome to ST Skills. This is a weekly system design session, and we do have like two formats, like two alternate series, like in the same system design. So this week we are doing a mock interview where we will have an interviewer and interviewee, like as a volunteers who came here and do a mock interview for the first 1 hour, and we have the audience like watch and listen and collect gather the feedback for both of them and see how we could have done better or like discuss later. So this is kind of a collective feedback and learning from each other. That's the format of this. And we also have the other sessions where other regular session on alternate weeks where we deep dive on any system design topic, be it research paper or like just like replication, any specific topic which if you want to present or like participate in any of these sessions, feel free to connect or ping in Discord on system design channels. So myself or Asim would be able to help you. And yeah, so with this, let's get started with today's mock interview. So Dipali, are you ready?
Yes, yes. Oh, what has opened up?
Yeah, I think you. Okay. So today, let's say that like ST skills on like the current situation in India, right? Like there is a lot of surge of COVID and there is shortage of supplies. Let's say that like we are ST skills is partnering or like was asked by Indian governments or like some other third parties to design a donation or like a fundraiser app. Okay, and we are going to help them um, to design this short term, like it's going to live for a few days, like just for this time, and where we'll just help raising in the fundraising for oxygen, or it could be for any other supplies, or in general like for helping the people who are not able to afford any things. So it's kind of basically we are going to design a fundraiser app or like a donation app, whatever you want to call it. And you can assume that we already have partnered with the payment gateways who will help us in collecting the donation. But like to keep track of all the history, like we'll be collecting whoever has donated, like customer name or what's the amount, his email address or like contact number just in case. So after all this short-term donation like thing is done, like we should be able to produce like from where we got this, how much money, and we should be able to transfer it to whoever it's supposed to. Like if you are purchasing supplies, we should be able to send them that money. So I hope you got the question. Let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, so I understood the idea, and I mean, yeah, it's a like good system to design when uh, in the at the time of crisis.
Mhm.
So I just have a few questions. Like, we want to design a system where, if suppose I, as a producer, have like supplies, then I can register myself and like upload what all supplies I have, or as a
No, no, no. This
like
is
normal.
just going to be, let's say, we just have like the idea is like to raise funds for this cause. So and like ST Skills is helping to develop that app which can be used to donate for like so people who using this app, they just say that this is the cause and this is like our goal is to raise oxygen supplies in this so and so area in India. So, and I mean, like once the goal is to gather the money first. So that can be used by whoever created that event or fundraising event. So, and they use that to purchase like the other purchasing equipment and supplies is outside of the scope of this.
Okay, okay. So the our only uh, uh like the goal of this system is to like raise money and like give it to the people in need.
Yes.
So what is the medium that you want to use to like so if so we want to like build an application where if I want to donate I can like pay for that, and the payment system we have already partnered with a payment API,
Mm-hmm.
so they'll provide their API to like for the transactions. So
Mm-hmm.
if I want to like donate money I can use that application and like donate whatever amount of money that will be aggregated, and how is it going to be given to the person who needs it?
That's up to the person who is collecting it. Like for we are just helping in making this donation process easier. So that's our goal. So
Okay, so our goal is only to like donate. After that point onwards, once the donation is complete, how it's, I mean,
yeah,
is it
distribution.
like a system where a person who needs it can look up and then request for it, or uh, just like uh, just donating is good enough?
Yeah, I think just for now, let's start with the donation, and then in future we can expand.
Okay.
So I mean, like whoever creating that cause, like they know what to do. Let's assume that. So and whom they need, so whom to help. So or they may just give it to the government. So it's up to them. So
Okay, okay, sure. Yeah, so um, uh, uh, and as you mentioned, okay, so basically our requirement is to, so the system that we are building should be able to and does like the users who are donating money,
mhm.
do we need to like authenticate them as to like they are the legit users, or does it not matter? Like do they have to like register to our system before
Yeah, so good question. So yes, so I mean, like you can have multiple mechanisms, but like we don't need to design for it. Let's assume that we have the registration process, and it can be either through directly in the app, or they can use Google or Facebook authentication or
oh,
any other social media. So,
okay, okay,
but you gather some of the details which
sure.
I mentioned as part of that. So who is donating, you know, so that you know.
Yeah, yeah. The identity of the users basically.
Mhm. And once I donated, I should be able to also have the capability to share on the customer's preferred social media, so that like they indirectly help the campaign or whatever the cause.
That so that they have share donated this money.
Donated, yeah, correct. And for with the cost details.
Okay, sure. So there will be user registration, and after the registration is complete, user should be able to donate the money.
Mhm.
So this will basically update where it will specify what's the amount to be paid to the system.
Mhm.
Do we need to also segregate like what the user wants it to be used for, like for suppose oxygen mask, or they want to like
No,
directly
no, no.
help?
Let's say that like in the app we show them what are the popular causes, And like, let's assume that they see a cause and they select a cause to donate.
Okay, so it's a cause based. Okay.
Mhm. So they already know for which they are donating. So, so I mean, like in this case, I gave an example of COVID, but like I'm just generalizing now. I mean, like in specific, like India situation, like I just gave some oxygen supplies raising fund. So
But our system should be like generic enough to support other causes too.
yeah. So since there are like many situations which will come up, like it could be regional based, like since we have lot of problems during this time. So that's the reason like there could be multiple causes within COVID, overall COVID umbrella. So so that's why I just wanted to a little generalizing the application.
Sure. So yeah, this will be cause based, which can be generic.
Mhm.
Um, After user donation, it will connect to the payment API, which
Mhm.
will do the payment processing.
Mhm.
Um, the fourth requirement would be to update the social media, like after the
It's an
success.
optional thing. Yeah, once you know here you have collected in the confirmation page or something, you give the option that he can share to social media or he can keep quiet just with the confirmation. You can
Like
assume
a
that the
email
yeah,
confirmation.
email notification to the send. I mean, like donate the
Mm,
person who is donating.
yeah, email confirmation
Text
and
message.
the social media is
Yeah,
option.
optional.
Got it. So yeah, these are going to be the functional requirements.
Mm-hmm.
For the non-functional requirement, uh, as per the requirement, the system should be like highly available because if as a user I want to donate some amount of money, I should be able to access it whenever required. So
Yeah.
system should be highly available.
Mm-hmm.
And the system should also be consistent because as and when there will be like concurrent updates onto the uh, database for like donating. So those requests should be handled concurrently, and as the requests are coming concurrently, the data shouldn't be like inconsistent, otherwise it will create inconsistent amount of money.
So if the concurrency is happening, then how does it impact the consistency? I
Like
didn't.
we will be updating a database. Yeah, I think it is going to be like continuous addition of the. Yeah, I don't
Can
think.
come back to this consistency part later. Consistency or concurrence, how we handle.
Okay, okay.
So yeah, you can. Yeah, let's jump on to the next step. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Um, yeah, so these are the non-functional requirements that the system needs to support. As to like to see to like get the scalability of the system, to gauge that like how many um,
Let's say that
users.
like yeah, I mean like on the user base, like we can just say that like at least 1 million or like 10 million are going to participate in donation.
Okay, let's see, 10 million
Mhm.
users will roughly participate, and each user will roughly donate like 1,000 or 10,000 rupees.
Yeah. So Yeah, I mean, like amount can be anything. You can even
Anything
donate
doesn't matter.
100 rupees also. That's fine.
Yeah, so there will be like 10M users who will be donating the money.
Mm-hmm.
And then these 10 million users we can consider would be over a period of 30 days. Is it safe to
Mhm.
like conclude this?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can say that.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
looking at for this scalability, we would need, so if we assume that to save the date like the money donation amount for each user,
Mhm.
we would need roughly like to store like user information, we would need like roughly
Uh, yeah, let's not worry about capacity
gigabytes,
estimation now.
like total amount. And if we want to like save it for 30 users,
Mhm.
30 days, and for 10 million users,
Mhm.
that would make increase our system requirement to 15 GB. So we would need this much amount of data to over the period of 30 days to store
Okay.
uh, like over a period of 1 month.
Mhm.
And we can so the modern servers can handle 15 GB of data, but that would be like a single point of failure. So to avoid that, I would use like at least two servers to handle this much amount of data. And if you want to like not overload the system, like make it like 80% usage, then I would like use it would make it like 20 GB roughly. So
Okay.
I would use like at least two servers to store this to serve these requests.
Okay. Let's get to the high level design. I'm okay for now. Like if I have questions, I'll come back to this capacity anyway. So we can.
And we can also like there will be like query per second would be like, so if there are 10 million users, they if there are like 100 requests per day, then that would increase the QPS to one
Tell.
by 10 per day, zero point 0.1 per day. So per second would be proportionate to that. Yeah, so let's move on to high level design. So there will be what all like platforms that we want that the user can access the this application needs to be supported.
Yeah, a simple web page and a mobile app. Let's assume like those are the two mediums user can donate.
Yeah, so for the high level design, there will be like a client who would be using this API, and it can be a web or a mobile app to connect. And there will be API, and there will be like API servers, but there will be a load balancer here, which will be used to like route request to the load balancer, to the API server.
Mhm.
And this API server will basically handle all the user login requests and other. So it will handle all the stateless requests for user information and how much money they are donating.
Mm-hmm.
And this will also connect to the payment API to process the request. So this API server basically will like update the cache and the DB
Mm-hmm.
for all the user and money like database related updates. And this will also be like partitioned and replicated using consistent hashing for scalability and avoid a single point of failures. And this will also connect to the payment API, which will do all the processing. And after, so it will be like a, so this connection will be like a request response uh, fashion when only if payment API responds with a success, um, this database will be updated with the successfully donated money, and the amount for fundraising will be updated.
Okay.
So
So
this payment API is not uh, successful, then the transaction should be aborted.
okay, and the API where you return, is that a server or like an API gateway, or like just the service, one specific service that you handle? Like, can you list all the APIs that you are
So
planning?
this will connection will be through the gateway, payment gateway.
No, no, not. I'm not talking about the payment one. There is a box where you return API. I don't know, like
Yeah, here.
No, not that one. So the other two box, yeah,
So
that one.
this is the application server, app
Oh,
server.
application server. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
All
So
the API requests will go to this app server for basically if a user wants to register to this system,
okay,
then this
let's list down
API.
the APIs that you're going to design. So in the app server. So just so that I get a clarity how each flow works.
Yeah, I will go to that. I mean, I was just giving the high level design of
Okay,
what.
okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, so yeah, so here we will. I just wanted to highlight that if the payment is not processing, then the whole transaction will be aborted and the database update will not be successful. Uh, we will still maintain the user registration, but we will mark the amount as zero. And yeah, so and then this will also, yeah, so this is the high level design. Let me and there will be the APIs that will
Yes.
be supported will be like donate the money,
Mm-hmm.
and this donate API will basically take the, and there will be like two APIs to register and to donate.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be a login API or a sign up API,
Mm-hmm.
which will take the user ID,
Okay.
um, pass, sorry, user. So this will take like a name of the user,
Mm-hmm.
um, how it wants to sign up, like using like its third party or
I think I may have forgot to mention, but like name, the email, and the phone number. Yeah, those are some of the things we are
yeah, yeah, yeah.
capturing at least.
Yes, phone number, even the address to gauge the locality of from where the
Yeah,
uh,
we don't need address. Just like to simplify, like
or maybe like just a
it's
zip
going to be a
code.
lot of information for the people who are donating. So it's a lot of ask. So we can say
How
even
about a
phone
zip
number
code?
is an optional. Yeah, phone number and address can be optional actually.
Okay, sure.
Email is mandatory. So
Yeah, so email is mandatory. Then address can be optional.
Mhm.
And what login method they want to use.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, two options, right? Like one, you yourself support one basic one with the
Mhm,
name, email, and phone and
mhm.
stuff. And there is also, you also support Google-based authentication and Facebook. But let's not get to that design because I'm not interested in that sign up part. But I just
Sure.
wanted to make sure that you are designing the sign up or like registration because that's
Sure.
how you get to know who they're.
Yeah, sure. So there will be a sign up API up followed by the login API where the credentials will be sign up API will basically update the user database post successful registration, and then login API will take the user credentials based on the like a user ID password.
Um, yeah, I mean, like, let's assume like login is only for this third party, Google or Facebook. If they're donating for us, like if they give this information, I think that's good enough, right? Like we don't need to have the password handling and stuff. So,
Okay.
so,
Yeah, sure. So then this login will be through the Google authentication.
mhm.
So we will
Let's
directly.
assume like some, yeah, you have an existing solutions that you are using for this.
Okay, sure. So yeah, let me. Yeah. So the main API is going to be Donate,
Mhm.
and this will accept the user ID and what amount that user want to donate,
Okay. User
and the
ID.
cause
Okay.
it wants to donate for.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So these will be the parameters that we can take, and this will basically take this input
Mhm.
and generate a response whether yeah, and this will also response whether so this will internally connect to the payment gateway which will accept the other credentials related information from the user, but this donate api they won't handle that directly. And this like after communicating with this payment api based on the result it will return a success or failure message back to the user.
Okay.
So that will be the response.
Okay. So so let's get into this little so how Donate API is going to work. So let's
Sure.
say you have the payment API, so which is going to take the user to their own bank or
Yes.
their own credit card, whatever the means they're donating, and charge the money. And like, so when you communicate with that payment gateway, and like, let's say, yeah, first explain me like how different scenarios are going to work. Then I can ask probably questions based on.
Yeah, sure. So let's deep dive into the donate workflow. So when as a user, I want to like donate some money.
Mhm.
Suppose like user A wants to donate certain X amount of money, then it will connect to the API server, app server, which will forward, which will authenticate the user based on the login if, and sign up. And after the authentication is successful, it will forward this request to the payment gateway.
What's the second box? I just lost.
Application server.
Okay, okay, got it. Okay. So, okay, and it connects to the payment gateway. Okay.
Yeah. So after the like client is transferred to this payment gateway, like client will basically there will be like a this app server will go. So this will basically hold that request for that user for a certain amount of time till the payment is getting processed. Let's say that amount of time is 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it will store it in the memory that it will be like a linked hash map type of a structure where there will be user there will be like data for like user and what amount of money it wants to donate.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time this but this will be updated as processing.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, it will meanwhile send this request to the payment gateway
Mm-hmm.
where it will be processed. If suppose there are like multiple scenarios here, few of those being let's say the payment gateway was uh, the user went to that payment page, but it did not finish the transaction. Let's say like let's pick the like straightforward scenario where user finished the transaction and it was a success.
Okay.
In that case, this will be updated to completed,
Mm-hmm.
and that amount will be updated to the total fundraiser. There will be like a one like it will be updated that this much fundraise has been done, and there will be certain goal that we want to achieve. So that dashboarding can be handled separately, that you know how much amount of money is remaining versus what the goal is. So that will be added to the pool if this is successful. But there will be cases where user tries it, but there are like scenarios that it will not have enough amount of money that in the bank, so it will be rejected.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, the payment gateway can ask the user to retry. So in that case, it will like not be completed. It can be updated as aborted,
Okay.
that that node, or can also be like removed even after multiple retries. And if suppose like there are multiple retries, then it can be eventually removed uh, from the database, that that user did not donate. We can still maintain that user's information, but that user has not maintained donated anything. And there will be third scenario when user just does not like do anything and the payment gateway expires, like that page itself expires.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case also, like the similar entry can be updated, uh, like the 5 minute window will be expired in that case, so we will not return or reject, or maybe the payment gateway will return a response stating that the session expired. So we will remove those. And
Okay, can you actually, so you are mentioning about different payment gateway status. Can you tell me what we are going to store like as part of our system, how you track, what all information you are going to track for a transaction
yeah, so
in
the
a database? Yeah.
it will be the user ID and amount.
User ID in the sense email, or it's something that
Will be
randomly.
a primary key, user ID, with what the user is identified. And there will be a separate user table
Mm-hmm.
which will have other email and other information. So it will be a user table. And this will be the amount table. or the transaction table, I would say. But it will be like a key value store, this transaction table, because we can keep it in the memory easily.
Mm-hmm.
So so this can be a key value store where we can say, okay, what is going to be the amount? So, suppose 10K, the user ID, that can be XYZ, and the status. So this status can be like a success
Mm-hmm.
or aborted or
Mm-hmm.
expired, like one of the three.
Okay. So let's take a scenario like where you call the payment gateway and it it timed out basically.
Um, yeah, so in that case, the entry will be expired. So whatever, and those expired entries would be at the head of this linked list type structure. So we will like scan the linked list from start to end, and we will remove the entries which are more than 5 minutes older. So there will be a
No, that's
timestamp which
fine.
I have to
So
use.
okay, so yeah, that's okay. But like what I am meant to say is like let's say you store it as expired and you forget about it, right? And you remove from the linked map, whatever wherever you're storing. But like when I say timeout from the payment gateway, I don't know whether the payment was already done by the client. I mean whoever donated. So I mean like
So
the
like the
timeout reason
gateway is
is
not
unknown.
reachable and the gateway finished the transaction, but we did not receive, like a failure scenario where we are not able to connect to the payment gateway.
Mhm. No, it could be some intermittent timeout also, but like how are you going to resolve such cases? So the customer might have done the payment, but not like that response is not received by the app that you're like to your API, or so in that situation, how are you going to handle?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, these two scenarios are straightforward where success and reject has come.
Mm-hmm.
In case of, so like this 5 minute period has expired and we updated our entry, but in reality, I mean, this expired will be only updated when we receive the response from the gateway that user session expired.
Mm-hmm.
Only in that scenario it will be updated. For the cases where we are not able to reach the payment gateway, in that in those scenarios, we will wait for the um, so this transaction will be like pending in that case. Like we will not update it basically till that time we will try to reconnect or try a
So
different gateway if there are like multiple gateways which can be used. But it will basically have to wait for the payment gateway to confirm.
okay, I mean, like, but like, since it timed out, like, oh, you said you're going to make it pending. How do you decide pending versus expired? And expired
Uh,
means you haven't collected money or
so
kind of
expired.
collected or uh,
So there will be payment like there will be a scenario. Okay, as a user, I am going to the payment gateway and I'm paying, but I don't do any activity for 5 minutes. So payment gateway itself will expire that page. And once the payment gateway knows that okay, this session with the user has expired, it will send it back to the application server. And that application server will update, okay, this session was expired. So we did not basically the expired sessions do not update that database that okay, this much money has been added to the pool. But in case of when we are not able to reach the payment gateway, then we are not getting any response back, basically. So that's the difference.
Okay, yeah. My question was like around like you were able to when initiating the transaction, you were able to reach, but like when the user made a payment and it's about to communicate back, like you didn't receive the response from payment gateway, but it collected the payment.
Correct.
So for that situation, like how are you going to handle?
As I mentioned, I will wait for the. I will try to like keep
Again,
connecting till yes,
okay, like a retrace.
yes, retries or try a different gateway.
Um,
Or like
how
keep
does
a long polling session open. So whenever the payment gateway is has a able to connect, it will push the data.
so how do you know that you're asking the for the same transaction? Like how do you know like for the same user? Like how does payment gateway know you're requesting the status for this transaction?
Okay, there will be a transaction ID associated with each transaction.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
yeah, and yeah, this transaction ID will be basically, and then
So another thing, so we are okay. Let's move on to another thing that I have a question on. So you mentioned like a linked hash map, like you're going to maintain like for 5 minutes. So what's that going to have? Like all current in progress donations?
uh yes. So like these transactions will be as is only based on the status, whichever
Is
sessions
it
which
like a
are
persistent storage or like I mean like when you say linked hash map, I don't think it's
no,
persistent.
it's not persistent. So whatever are the successful or expired or aborted sessions, we will keep removing it.
So when you say remove, you are going to store it in your database, right? Or
So this is a yeah, this we have a separate database update
Mhm.
which will happen, but this is like a cache. This
Yeah, that's what like so after this process, like once you get whatever the response or based on retrace, so once you collected the payment, you're going to store it somewhere. So
yes,
that's in the database, right? Okay.
yes, that will be in the database.
So, and what happens when this cache crashes? So, like when power off or some situation, and all the current in progress transactions were lost. So, what's the experience you're going to give to the customer or like
Yeah,
the people donating?
yeah. So I can have a secondary cache, like a primary backup. So when the primary cache is down, I can use a backup cache, which will uh, which will use to serve the request. Because yeah, I mean having single cache will be like a single point of failure. So to avoid that, I would go for a secondary cache, and like if both of these caches are down, then I can use like
Uh,
an
do you
an
think cache is a
indexer.
good idea for this, or like even secondary cache has a chance of being corrupted, or like it's a volatile, right? Whenever you say cache, the
Yeah,
information can be lost. Like, are you okay to lose? And like, what's the experience you're going to give to the don't I mean like the people who are in that like basically donating process? Are you going
yeah.
to
So in that case, I
reduce?
can.
Mhm.
In that case, if both my primary and secondary caches are down, then I can use like an indexer, which will have a mapping to which transactions are stored in like which database. Then it can rebuild the cache based on that, rather than having to like query all the database. or the partitions.
Okay, what's the indexer here? Papa?
It will basically map all the transaction IDs to like servers, which server to like take the transactions from, and then it will rebuild the cache. So this will be, and this can also be like have a backup.
No, no, no. I mean, like, that's okay. I mean, like, how about
So
you?
whenever we add this to whenever there is a cache updated, it will update like this cache has this transaction ID, and if we want to like rebuild this in case it goes down, which where to access it from, rather than like scanning the whole database.
Okay, yeah, I mean, like, that's okay. I'm just asking about, like, think broader, like, how these decisions are going to impact the customer experience. So, like, rebuilding the cache or like losing, like, yeah, I was more specific about that. Like, how this your server or cache going down is going to impact the donation process. So let's say, like, I think based on what I understood, so whoever is in this cache, like, essentially means that they are in the middle of donation, or like they are in that 5 minute mark, as you said. So they are waiting for, or like they may be already heading to payment gateway to make the donation, and suddenly in the background, like, this server is crashed and you don't know. I mean, like, your app server, like, whatever the donate API, how does it figure out, and what's the
Hey,
experience?
Asim, Naga, I have somebody at the door. I have just give me 2 minutes.
Okay, okay,
Sorry.
sure, sure, no problem. Let me pause.
Yeah, so you were saying that if there is a payment request going on and the server reloads, at that time, what happens?
Yeah, so I mean, like, it's basically essentially like, whatever the in progress transactions. My question is, like, apart from cash, where are you going to persist? So,
It will be added into the database.
okay, so each transaction, before you put it into the cache, you're going to add into the database. Can you tell me what initial state would look like for a transaction in that case before you add that into cache, like, or 5 minute mark? I mean, like, the transaction state, like, with the different values that you mentioned here, what would be that initial state? Like, what is the initial status in particular?
So the initial status would not change, right? Like if I store it in the DB or cache, because initial status when the transaction is starting, it is always going to be in progress.
Okay, yeah, that's what.
We are at that time, we are going to like send the query to the API server, payment gateway. And once it processes it, we know like what is going to be the final status.
Okay, yeah, I got it. So then basically, if you lose something, and let's say the status is in progress, like, to rebuild the cache, you're going to look into all the database rows with the status in progress. Is that correct?
Yes. And then we can rebuild the cache based on that.
Okay.
And that is still acceptable because payment gateway will take some time to process the request. So if suppose in a scenario where client is requesting like all the steps have been processed and the transaction is in progress and payment gateway is processing the request, and at that time if the cache server is going down. Or
Mhm.
for example, it just goes down at the time of I mean, that will be a worst case situation where, payment gateway has just given the response back. Like if the cache server is going down just after sending the request to the payment gateway will take some time to process it. So like there will be enough time to rebuild the cache. But for example, the cache server is going down and there will be a secondary server, but both of them will go down, and the payment gateway both the servers go down immediately after the payment gateway response have been given back to the application server, and right before updating the database to like success or whatever the response was.
Mhm.
So that will be like a worst case scenario. In that case, user will have to like there will be a delay in updating the user, as the transaction is successful. Uh, like there will be a latency because we at that time we'll have to access the database, like or rebuild the cache using indexer. And if this indexer is not used, then access the database directly.
So do you need the indexer?
This
Uh,
will this will make it faster, I believe, because if we want to like directly check the database,
mhm.
uh, then it will be like it will take more time.
Okay, got it. So, and do you think like cache is still needed, like with even after having the database and having a 5 minute mark?
Yeah, I think it's good to have cache for processing
Mhm.
rather than directly accessing the database.
Okay, so okay, let's get to let's say you're generalizing this donations to across like worldwide, and how would you make changes about this, like not just Indian payments like in rupees, you also accept dollars and euros or like yeah, other currencies also, like you accept donation change.
Okay. Then in that case, I would add of course the system will be more has to be made more scalable, and like more partitioning will be needed, replication, and the way I'm storing data will change. So now I will also like maintain what all currency is coming, the amount is coming in, and then um, uh,
Guys,
convert it
audible,
into.
like is Dipali audible continuously? I don't know if it's me.
Sorry,
Yeah, I feel like you.
I think your voice is not coming. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. I think his voice is breaking.
Okay.
Hinaka, are you there? I think Naga is reconnecting.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, yes,
Yeah,
Naga.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
My Wi-Fi got reconnected for I don't know.
Yes, yes. I can hear you now. I think we lost him again.
Yeah, let's wait. I think he has some connection issues.
Okay.
Dipali, let's conclude if you hear me. Like I think my internet connection is coming up again.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so just to answer your last question, there won't be like very significant changes in the system. We will like convert whatever currency, there will be like a conversion mechanism which will convert the currency to Indian rupees and then reflect it into the amount. And I will be adding like multiple application servers geographically distributed so that each user can connect to their the application server based on the proximity. And there will be like more partitioning and replication and using consistent hashing will be required into the system.
Mhm. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dipali. I think we are done with the mock interview now. So opening this up to the audience and like yeah, feel free to start chiming in with your feedback or questions. So I can give my feedback a little later and yeah.
Okay, thank you,
For
folks.
monitoring this. Yeah.
Good job, both of you. And now I think we can open the floor for the audience to chime in, share their thoughts, questions, comments, anything is welcome.
I can start. Go first. Few things. First of all, like good job in like doing this interview in front of all people. Like that's really good. It's very difficult to do it. One thing is that scalability. I do not. I'm expecting like some sort of a queue in between because this is supposed to be a donation app. And if for example, if a celebrity or somebody tweets it and a bunch of people starts coming in, you'll have a surge of people just logging in for payment, and that I don't know whether this system will be able to handle. I'm expecting some sort of a bus, message bus, Kafka or something, so that you can scale it out, and that can accommodate more load. With this system, I don't know that. Two
So,
statement. Go ahead.
yeah, finish your thought. Sorry, I interrupt you.
The other thing is state management. Thing in memory, it's a money application. If that memory in cache goes bust, everything is lost. So you need to have a consistent like database, high consistent. That's what I think in a payment application is required. It should be highly consistent. You should not be able to like lose data at any point by writing into a persistent store. I think, and this is my suspicion that was asked in the interview earlier, whether caching is enough for the scenario. I feel it's not. You should have a strong, you should have a database. Third is you. I have hearing you like telling like it will have a transaction DB, it will have a cache. When you say it, who's it? Like, is there another service doing this? Who's going to populate it? Who's going to invalidate the cache? I would prefer, in my humble opinion, to say like there is a service which does so and so instead of saying it will do it. That saying will cause like a lot of, at least in my mind, a lot of confusion as to what is it, who's doing, who's maintaining it. Database. When you say a database, is it transactional? It's like a non-SQL or SQL, sharding, schema, index. Like these are sub things that you I think should say along with saying like a database. Those are few things. Yeah.
So, if I would be doing this thing, so I see there are two possibilities on the on the donation portal. One is a synchronized flow, one is a asynchronized flow. So when I say synchronized flow, and if you are doing this in a real time also with someone, it's better to mention about both and go on the trade-offs for both of them. So I see this system is very simple. User will go put the information and just click the payment button, and it would hit the payment gateway, could be Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, whatever, and you get the response back and you show the user you are done. You at that point, I don't expect that gateway is not going to scale. Payment gateway is something which is supposed to scale, and then you can check with your interviewer that does he or she expecting that thing is not going to scale. Then that is a different scenario then. But any payment gateway, everybody like Amazon.com, any other retailer, everybody in the world is hitting them. So I feel that is the most reliable and scalable service in my opinion. But you can check with the interviewer that, hey, let's say if it is not scalable, then what we should do? Then the safe side is bring a queue in, do a asynchronous flow. Like, okay, we'll take a request, put it in the queue, on what speed I can process that request and what payment gateway could process. I would keep on reading it. If there are any failures, I could do a retries. But if the message is totally failed, couldn't be possible, then put it in a dead letter queue, and then all these things can come into picture. And in that flow, you have already exhibit that, okay, you think about synchronous and asynchronous. I feel like synchronous is more apt here, in case payment gateway is the most reliable thing. But there could be situations like I'm building Amazon.com. There would be so many moving parts. Inventory is, you need to think about inventory, order status, couple of things. So there I feel like asynchronous processing is more appropriate, where you can do things behind the scenes and don't block your user. That's 2 cents from my side.
So one question here. So asynchronous, you are using a queue, right? Synchronous, what is the scenario? Can you please explain?
Yeah, asynchronous is a scenario where interviewer is telling that payment gateway can go down. Payment gateway is not reliable. So I need a mechanism to queue the things and retry the things. So then I don't want to block my user. So I'll tell my user, hey, I took your request. After 5-10 minutes, you will get an email from me if everything is good. Otherwise, I will tell you the status that, okay, things are not good and you can retry, something like that.
Okay. What's a synchronous way, like you are mentioning?
Synchronous way is like you put your details and you call the payment gateway. Payment gateway will say, okay, good. And you tell the user, okay, you're good to go. We took your request and we processed your payment. Thank you so much.
Oh, the user will be keep on waiting till that. Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
but you see, there is no what are the partner service you are calling? We are only calling one service, payment gateway.
Yes.
That's it. It's very simple flow as compared to, like I mentioned, the same thing. If you are doing on Amazon.com, you put 100 things in the cart. Now when you go to payment side, then there are so many other things we need to see. Oh, I still have the inventory? So many other things are there. So there it is more appropriate to go with the asynchronous flow. But here there is very simple, like you put the details, you call payment gateway we should say yes, no, and that's it.
Yeah.
Here,
So
And payment gateway I feel is the most reliable thing over here, because if that is faulty, the entire globe will be get affected. Across the globe, across the regions, everything will go for a toss.
Yeah.
here is where I would prefer a actual DB and an actual async flow. Payment gateway may not be faulty. Payment gateway would have sent you a response back to your request. That response might not have reached you. That response would have gone for a toss because of network issue or some other reason, and it would not have reached you. It would have been processed in payment gateway without any error on their side. The response that you might not have catched because of so many out of hand issues, network partition at some other network, like doing that response is going through internet, so anything can happen at that point. You need a mechanism to say that, okay, I have sent to this gateway, let me retry after some exponential backup. And for that you need some sort of a transactional ID, and that transactional ID is for to tell to the payment gateway, hey, here is the previous request that I sent. If you have processed it, please send me a response back. And that's why a transactional ID, and that can be ephemeral to that transaction. After that, you don't need it. But that whole thing, to keep a state, I feel it's better to have it some system on your side. And that some system on your side is your queue with having a exponential backup and you keeping transaction on your side. That's what I'm not relying on the stability of payment gateway.
Yeah, I mean, like that was one of the question also, like asked, like I think the moment I was asking, I was pushing towards like the transaction ID, at least, like because that's how the payment gateways identify, like it's whether it's the same request or a new request. So if we are, as long as we are querying for the same transaction ID, most payment gateways know. If it's already charged, they won't charge it again, even if you call payment on the same with the same transaction ID. So
So I
but
have one more thing. Uh, in my perspective, I want to eliminate the entire cache one. So cache, I can use it only for the like user login details information, so relogging, that kind of thing. But instead of cache, I want to use a temporary table. That's what I mentioned in the chat. So in the temporary table, like it puts all the data like transaction ID, user ID, and what's the cause and everything. So it keeps a status column as pending, accepted, rejected, all that. So all the pending transactions will be taken by a scheduler job. So it runs every 2 minutes, fix the transaction from the uh, a temporary table, and if it is success, it will delete that entry from the temporary table and add it to the permanent table for logging. Is it a good idea?
you mean on the database, you are having a temporary table, right?
Yes, sir. And a
Yeah,
scheduler
I mean, like, yeah, I mean, like, since like there are not so many users, like I mentioned 10 million users. So yeah, I'm planning to give any feedback. So you can still handle with the database indexing on the status. You don't need cache actually for handling all the progress, because as long as you say like if my status is in progress and you indexed on that status column, if you say give me all in progress transaction, database is already when you index on that column, you can easily query or pull. But still, yeah, having like for a faster lookup, yeah, adding cache, obviously it's not like it's solving, it's also adding complexity. So again, you need to know when you need to refresh the cache and other stuff.
so you
When
process
you
this pending transactions like a cron job kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, like there are multiple mechanisms. So you can periodically, I mean, like since, I mean, like if we take the example of Deepali 5 minutes, you can periodically poll like every, yeah, like a cron job every minute it scans and hits the payment gateways. So
Yeah.
that could also be possible, yes. Or like the queue, I think that's there should be one like periodical poller, or like the if you have the change data capture.
Oh, we lost
So
you.
that's the one which is
Okay.
and okay.
Hey, seems like this is Ramesh. Seems like Naga is still having the connection issues. While we wait for him to join, can I make a quick comment? Like, I have a couple of questions here.
sure, please go ahead.
I think, Asim, you really touched a very great point here, talking about synchronous and asynchronous. I can see that, yes, like, if I am an a a portal where I make a purchase that has to be synchronous, right? Because I can only get a product back if I make a payment. So I had to literally wait there. But in this case, a donation, I think it doesn't matter if it happens instantaneously in real time, or it can also take 5 to 10 minutes, right? I say that, hey, I log on to my app. I say that I wanted to donate $20 for this cause,
Mm-hmm.
a charity, and I get a message saying that, okay, hey, you'll get a notification back in 10 minutes.
Hmm.
That is perfectly fine. No, I'm not going to lose anything. It's not like where you get onto Amazon and say, I can only buy this product if I make the purchase, right? So I think thank you for
No,
differentiating
so
between synchronous
Ramesh,
and
that
asynchronous.
also depends on two things, like what
Mhm.
kind of customer behavior we want to give. Like if you remember in the start of the request, start of this session, there was a requirement that the user should able to uh, brag about that, or not, sorry, brag. A user should able to publicize about that. So if that is a key thing of your system, that a user should able to publicize about that, then if it's something coming after 10 minutes, I will not go and bother about it. If it is instantaneous, like I put a request, I get a response, hey, good, we took your payment, thank you, and this is a fancy card or something fancy response I'm giving, just click on this button, it will go and share on your Facebook, WhatsApp, whatever. So that is a more appropriate flow here, rather than asking user, I will come back to you in 10 minutes and then you can publicize it. Nobody will going to do that. You think about yourself also. Like you could start doing some other things, start going out, driving, and then that use case would go away totally.
Sure. So I think so that is the SLA commitment that
Hmm.
our that our API is giving to customer, right? Now saying that, okay, now I'll instantaneously give you a response as soon as you make a payment. Sure. The
So
next,
like there is no right and wrong answer here.
Mhm.
It's the
Yeah,
point what
correct.
I'm
Sure.
trying to
Based
bring
on the
here is
requirement. Yeah.
in your interview, just try to bring these two things and see what direction your interview wants to probe you. And always talking about asynchronous flow give you a edge, because that gives the idea to the interview that this person knows the pros and cons about synchronous and asynchronous flow. Because asynchronous has a lot of now moving parts, queue, it will bring a lot of other complexities in the system. If you want to bear that, then asynchronous is always something is works out like a charm. But again, it depends on the interviewer, because once one interviewer pointed out, hey, how you can like think that hey, payment gateway could be unreliable, it is the most reliable thing. So there could be a lot of, like, again, it's a point of discussion with the interviewer. And whenever we are designing something, also think in that way. Last time when you did something similar like a charity, what happened that time? Did it tell you, I'm going to tell you in 5 minutes, or did it tell you on spot? So even sometimes we need to think like real time systems, what they are doing. If if it is a general trend, then yes. Or it could be a mix of both. Yes, that's a good point. During Thanksgiving, many systems go automatically asynchronous, and when the load goes down, they become synchronous. So that is another thing you can say, like, hey, the system supports both. During the when I see like peak, when the peak goes, uh, will automatically make it asynchronous. Otherwise, we'll go with the synchronized flow.
Sure.
Uh,
Sure.
Hey, Asim, I
Mm-hmm.
had another question. Like, is it possible that it becomes a synchronous flow until I call my payment systems, like whatever is the system? My payment system internally has queues and things like that, which will I can scale horizontally.
Mm-hmm.
And the request, when I say make a payment and click on that submit button, it hits and wait until my payment system underlying gives me a response back. Underlying system can use whatever mechanism it uses and then return me a response. In
Mm-hmm.
this case, I have a queue and other things in under the hood, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm holding off my user response until until I get a successful response from my underlying queue systems. That way, I'm thinking that it would be under the hood asynchronous, but it will, because it's much more fast. user will think that it is synchronous, and he will get a synchronous like look and feel, but it's not actually synchronous. It will take like a few milliseconds to do the thing, because I can scale my internal system horizontally. Is that possible?
So yeah, I also want to bring one more point. Let's see if that answer your question. But something came to my mind, and that might answer the question. So generally, there could be two things when we do payments. You put your credit card details. There would be one other API which just validate this is a good credit card or a valid credit card, which does not has to do the all the payment. And you can even accept that request because this is a good credit card, and now behind the scene you can put that in the queue, and you can still tell user good, you are good to go, because I know that credit card is good. I can anytime charge it behind the scenes. So that is one flow where it could be synchronous and async, which could live both synchronous and asynchronous at the same time.
So what you're telling is zero auth processing. I'm telling like once zero auth processing is complete, like under the hood, I'm telling that, hey, let this system which massively charges donations work its magic. I'm just holding my response back to the user until this underlying system returns me a success. Once it returns me a success, I'm going to return. Otherwise, I'm going to show that spinning wheel to the user saying that, okay, your transaction is being processed. So that way we get both of good of both worlds.
Oh, you're telling like on the user interface, there would be two flows. One is that, and the other thing is we took your payment, and the other wheel is telling, okay, things are going behind the scene.
Yeah, and once that is complete, then I can show, hey, your success. Hey, please want to share it in your social media. Here you can share it like that. So
okay, let's work backwards. If you are a user, what kind of experience you want?
Any charity thing, it's not like you press and then the next second it's completed. It will take some time. At some time should be ideally less than a minute, like 30 seconds or 10 seconds, worst case. Right. Until that time, I'm going to wait and say, okay, let it process the payment. Most of the time, within 10 seconds or within 5 seconds, within 10 seconds, it comes out proper. And I get a response saying that, okay, you're done. Please share it in your social media. And that's what I have seen.
So we are talking about SLA of 10 to max 30 seconds, right? Not even 30. 30 seconds is really on the higher side.
Yeah. 10 seconds is what I'm thinking, worst case.
Like 10 seconds is also really, really on the higher. It should be between 1 to 10 seconds somewhere.
Sure. All I'm saying is it possible that one of my system holds a response until the payment systems which does whatever it way, synchronous, asynchronous, I don't know, and gets back the result, and until then I'm holding off the response saying that, okay, now I got a 200 response from my underlying system, I can show a success page to the user, or I'm going to say unsuccessful.
So if like I can tell you, if I have to do what is my opinion, and then again,
sure.
If I would be like a PO of this, a product owner or a owner of this, so my target is within 1 or 2 seconds, everything should be done. If that could not be done, then go for other options. If the system could not handle, like payment is really slow and other things like that. But I won't. Either I will go with getting 200 instantaneously, that in 1 second everything is done, or I will say, okay, I'll get back to you. But I won't go into that kind of mode where I would say, okay, we already took your request, but still I would show you this wheel to wait. So that's sort of like my opinion on that. And like I mentioned that, okay, if the target is, let's say, what is the goal of the system? The goal of the system is within 2 seconds, I should do end to end, or at least do bare minimal where I know it could be done end to end. So that's why I was telling that there could be ways. Just see the credit card is good. Say user, okay, we took your request, you are good to go, because and behind the scenes charge the credit card. In that way, the whole system would work as expected.
Zero Auth, what you're telling works, but for that also we need to keep track of transaction ID and we need to keep track of
Yeah.
whether this is a good one
So,
or not.
as long as I can assure that the transaction would able to 100% successfully complete, or let's say in some cases 95% of time it's complete, and if 5% doesn't complete, we can again go back to user, hey, there was some problem with your credit card, we couldn't process your request.
Sure, sure. I mean, that same could be for the queue thing also, where I put it into this queue and I tell a success message saying that.
No, but then I'm telling for all the users. Now I'm only going for very limited number of users.
But
Like
if
95% of users, I told him instantaneously. Like they are good. Like for all 100% of users, I told instantaneously. Only 1 to 5% there could be issues, which I also don't. Which is also very high number. 5% of users.
Correct.
Like if I expect only 0.1% users, then I would go with synchronized flow.
Okay.
But again, like I was telling, if the load is high, systems couldn't, then there should be like some kind of a check that, okay, make it asynchronous, and when the load goes down, again make it synchronous.
Sure.
For
Yeah,
me,
that's
if I'm
good.
a user, I would love to have a synchronized flow. If I'm a user, and I would love to have, like, I did something and it should tell me instantaneously that thing is done, and I should start doing something else. I should not go back after 10 minutes and check, oh, whether that thing was done or not.
Okay. One other thing I wanted to share. Please also talk about testing and monitoring this. As part of a system design, please definitely talk about how do you test it, how do you monitor this. At any point of time, I should be able to know the health of the system. And any payment app, usually the question get asked is like, what happens if I press the submit button twice? That is a definite question in terms of payments related, because it's payment. I don't want to be double charged. So just make sure that these things are also covered.
We can use a rate limiter at that time, like within
rate limiter won't help.
Rate limiter won't help here. You should have a strong consistency which says that already your transaction is in progress. You can't do another until this is like completed or not, successful or not.
Or your UI is so smart enough that once you click a button, it should get disabled.
That one, even like JavaScript experts can override that and all.
Yeah, again, people can override, or there should be some way to figure it out.
Backend should handle it, ideally.
What's the solution for this? Like, can you please tell? Like double clicking.
So usually what I've seen is you'll have a state management in the backend, which says that, okay, this user ID has paid this much and the payment is in some state. In this case, it could be in progress. You click a button another time, it says that, okay, until this is complete, your second one won't be able to process. Once this is completed, then if he clicks another time, then it goes and says that, okay, now a new transaction with an additional payment of whatever he has selected would be going through. But until one of them goes through, one of them goes through as in either it becomes successful or it becomes failed or it becomes like a retriable error. In payment system, there are always retriable errors. Payment gateway going down, my system going down, the user authorization going down. One of my system is slow and it thinks that it has died. There is always retriable errors. So one of those retriable errors has to be successful, or the whole transaction has to be successful, or your credit card has failed. These three conditions has to be state managed, and that's a backend responsibility, not the front end.
I would like to have a different opinion here. There would not be always the situation when there is a logged in user. There would be anonymous users or guest users, and that time I don't know how the state system would work, and I feel like that would be overhead on the back end to manage a lot of things. If I can do things on the front end to avoid it, like disabling things and showing, and if somebody is purposefully going and hacking that, then that is not the expectation I have given about my system. Like somebody purposefully going and changing things and removing and labeling background, then be my guest. click it 10 times and give me more money.
So two things. One, in this question, it was told that there is an authenticated user. You need to authenticate. And that's why I mentioned like there is authentication involved and there is no guest user who can donate. There is an authentication system here. It could be third-party API that was given in the question, or it could be your own system that authenticate. Doesn't matter. But there is an authenticated, there's no guest user who can do it. Second, in my humble opinion, I think it's a backend responsibility to guard against anything that the front end send. You can't always say that front end will give you like good data. There's not going to be double, even if the browser can itself like send two requests, it's a network, anything can happen. It can, your backend should be able to guard against that. That's my humble opinion. I'm pretty sure it's like debatable either ways.
Yeah, like there's Shri Prasad, there's no wrong and right answer. There's always
Yeah,
trade-off.
correct.
So if anybody's going to the interview, I would suggest like try to give your interview both options.
Yeah.
Like, hey, should we do on the front end and or should we think about the state management, like Shri Prasad mentioned, on the back end? I think that will give you a really bonus points.
I think this is Ramesh. I think for the distributed systems, we in the past also we talked about the idempotency, right? A UID or a ID generated from the user side that will let you actually not having duplicacy, within the backend databases. For example, like if I totally rely on the backend databases to give me ID, that like I'm not going to present this ID once again for a duplicate transaction, then on a distributed system, it's not going to work. So the ID has to come from the front end, from the user side, saying that they are tagging their session with a a unique ID. And that goes behind the scenes and say like, if there is going to be another session going to be created behalf of this user or not. Based on that, the idempotency will be handled here, right?
So
Double clicking on that one.
okay.
Do it make sense, right?
The thing is, ID generation can happen even in backend. I do not mean to say that only database ID has to be generated. ID generation can happen by a unique ID generator, which can come from a backend also. I wouldn't rely on user giving me a unique ID always. Like how does browser generate unique ID, UID? This ID is useful only for this transaction. After that, I can throw it away. It does not matter. I can reuse the ID for like after 2 weeks. Only for this transaction only I need that ID. One, I can use a UUID generator from my end, from backend. I don't need like a front end to give me a unique ID generated to me, pass it through the request header and whatnot to reach me. I can do it from my end, backend also. So it does not matter like who generates it. And it's not only with the DB that generates the ID. It can be like some other engine that generates an ID and then gives it to me. And I'm using that ID as an ephemeral ID for this transaction. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. I think we, I think, yeah, I can align myself, with your approach here. Basically, what I'm meant to say is, wherever is the UID generated, that has to be tagged along with the session that is coming from the front end, right? Then only I think we are not depending on the primary key or anything for the user, but rather we are saying that the UID is the one that is going to be tracking the whole transaction from the from the front to the back, which can actually prevent us to create a duplicacy, double time accidentally clicking on the post button or submit button, something like that. But regardless, I agree with your point. It can be generated through a completely third system to generate a UID, or maybe back end or front end. It doesn't matter. That said, I have a
Hey Ramesh, sorry, I need to interrupt you and I need to park all these discussion till the end.
Yeah, in the
Because
interest of feedback, I mean, like
we
the
need
goal
to
is
give
to.
feedback to Dipali, and we are only 20 minutes more in the session. And yes, we'll hang out after 11. But very nice discussion. But we need to give Dipali feedback before 11.
Sure. Thank you.
Hey, okay. So anybody wants to give very concise, precise feedback to Dipali before Naga gives his feedback?
I can start quickly. I think
Okay.
Deepali, you did a wonderful job sketching out some of the asking the questions to the interviewer. Basically, when the title was given, the subject was given, I was clueless. I was just thinking from okay, hey, what is the purpose of this app, right? For donating. But it seems like you are really well prepared for such kind of interviews. The number of things that you brought to the table, like designing the APIs, services, talking about the payment uh, uh, gateways. It seems like I think you're prepared, and you well thought through some of these things, what are going to come into your way to design the app. And I see you are really able to get into some of the important aspects, like using the caches, using the tables, persistent tables versus volatile, talking about stateless, and then talking about the states tracking within the API. That's really pretty awesome. Thanks for doing a great job. It's pretty good.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, you're being very kind.
Deepali, would you mind share your screen, like just for the context? Okay.
Sure.
So, Deepali, I think I have very limited comments for today, but I felt I saw a different energy level today. The one which you did last time I saw uh, was a different energy level, and today I felt a different energy level. I don't know, like there could be some other things, but I felt the previous one, your energy level was, I felt really connecting.
Oh,
So yeah, that time, if you remember, although at some point you went into wrong direction, but you quickly come back, and you actually were really, I felt really energetic that time. So think in that way. If you see this recording next time, just try to see what kind of mode you want to operate in. That's I think one comment from my side.
okay. Thanks. Actually, last time was my first time, so I was bit all over the place, I felt. But this time I felt I was more collected and I was trying to go in a flow. But yeah, thanks for sharing that feedback.
Yeah, just compare both of them and see. You might want to have a best of both worlds.
Okay, yeah. I think I did not put that much energy this time because I was trying to be like maybe like play safe a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that feedback.
Okay, am I audible?
Yeah, yes, Naga.
Okay, so let me know if anyone else needs, otherwise I can quickly give my feedback. And if I'm lost in between, sorry, like today, I don't know why it's weird. My connection issues. So, but otherwise, like Dipali, like I just wanted to give you, I don't know if this was covered, this kind of app sometime back, but like I just wanted to give you some like not routine question and see like how you deal with I mean, like it's obvious that like in the interviews we are sometimes given like some their own like customizable app and see how you design for it. But like I think this is also, like people are asking nowadays, I feel. But I see that you handle the ambiguous question and you ask the right questions, and you're able to get to the requirements and start working on it. So I think your overall approach was good, but like specifically like when it comes to like the high level design, like I think you gave like a high level design, that's fine, but like adding any component like at the first itself, like cache or something, some of the things you can avoid like cache and introduce only when needed, like you don't need to introduce cache like when you're introducing the high level design. Just have basic components, like you don't need to have load balancer at the first. So let's say that like you can start with minimal components in the high level and start to expand, leave space for introducing components in each place, and you can add more components as needed, as you deep dive into specific component. So that's one thing, and you are able to like catch, like if I'm asking some questions, you are able to think, though you took some time, but like you were able to get to that problem quickly. And I think you could have done better, like with respect to the scaling, and like I wasn't particularly expecting the caching here, because like you can still go for more robust like the ASIC mechanisms, which Sri Prasad and Asim already pointed out. So having that approach, like since you already had the thought of having 5-minute window, so having a queue based mechanism and handling the async processing and directly updating the database without using the cache would have been like totally fine in this scenario, because of those time windows. So, and I feel like maybe I was trying to ask some at some point, like what would be the customer impact, but I see you are more thinking on the technical component side. So I mean, like that's fine, like what components we need to introduce, that's at the end goal. But anything that happens in your backend server crashes or whatever, the first thing that you should in general think is how is the user or customer is going to be impacted with this. So what's the experience would look like, then you can work backwards to see like what changes we need to make to be able to improve that experience. So when we say system design, it's not just backend, right? Like you also need to be conscious of how the overall end-to-end experience going to look like. So don't just think like what backend components we need to tweak in or add in. Also think how adding or disrupting one of this would impact the customer experience in general. So if you're having that thought always would actually help you. And yeah, I wanted to get to little more questions on the scalability as others, but like I had some connection issues. Sorry for that today. And I don't know if you had chance to validate against the requirements or you had that step today. I did clearly because of the issues I didn't notice, but I think overall you did a good job.
Okay, thanks, Naga. Yeah, I just added cache because I thought it would make the system faster than, having to access the database every time.
Yeah,
So,
and like Sri Prasad mentioned, just to be like when you're deep diving, just always don't rely on app server, and the payment gateway. You need to go
yeah, that was a
one
myth.
foot down. Yeah, because you need to say app server is not going to do anything. It's just going to provide you resources.
Yeah.
And your service where you are calling the payment gateway APIs, or how you are going to get response from that payment gateway APIs. That's how I mean, like you need to go one step foot down. So yeah.
Yeah. I should have mentioned the service. I missed that.
Yeah, I mean, like the moment you're going to detail service, like you should move away from that app server, like and get to the actual service or API, where like just say this API is going to call payment API, and then this is how it's going to work. So yeah, so just a small correction. So
I mean, I think I mentioned that in the beginning, but later on,
Yeah, you mentioned that, like, and I think you were flipping between 2, 3 screens, right? Like, so yeah, maybe you added that in one of the place.
yeah, I mean, here I just mentioned it during API design,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah. Yeah, I should have been more specific about it.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts from others?
Yeah, anybody wants to share, or Dipali, you want to add something from your side, or you want to clarify something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just thought of adding a caching server here because most of the like reservation systems, I have seen it being cached. So I just thought adding a cache would be like a standard design in that way. So I mean, I'm not able to understand why adding a cache is like a problem.
No, it's not a problem. I mean, like, it's um, so nothing is a problem. It's going to work, but like, the thing is whether it is it's what problem it is solving versus whether the same thing can be achieved directly. And I think it's kind of thinking on more broader level. So
Mhm.
Dipali, if I
how many times are you going to read from cache? So that's another way to look at it, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's say you added entries. How many times are you going to read it back? That's the main intention, right?
Mhm.
So when you're adding something into the cache, there are many servers constantly, periodically polling that entries in the cache. So just think about like how many times you're going to read these entries. So if it's once or few times, then you as well read it from the database. I mean, like the database, and to get to the in progress or like the status wise quickly, you can index on the status column alone. So
Mhm. Like if there are any concurrent requests, like multiple users are using this system. So if like there are multiple users are accessing that, then we have to like update in the database for all those users. So that will might be like slow down the system. So in that case, having a cache will be handy.
updating what kind of information?
So all the transaction related, like if there are like concurrent transactions going on, then there'll be like multiple updates concurrently onto the database.
So are you using this as like a write through? I mean, like this is a donate API is where you're
Mhm. Yeah, of course, like the database will be updated first and then the cache.
how are
The,
we
what are you putting in the cache?
All the users which are like in progress.
you mean all the transactions, right? Not
Yeah, all
the
the transactions.
so let's
I
say
think I need to again hold on all the design related thing till the end. So
okay, yeah.
cover the feed. We have next 5 minutes. I think somebody was trying to add something, so we can cover the feedback and then let's do deep dive on things.
Okay, so yeah, please go ahead. Like whoever wants to share feedback. It's not just for Deepali. Like you can also give feedback to me. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
Hey,
know.
Vivek, are you around? Do you want to share anything on candidate, interviewer, audience, or anybody?
No, I missed the whole interview. I'm only catching the feedback section. So I'm going to watch the video and I'll provide feedback later. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, I think
So
that
somebody was trying to chime in between. They tried a couple of times, and I think we just spoke over her. Um, if you had a question or a comment, please feel free to unmute and speak.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for that. So I was thinking cache, there's always a both downsides and like upsides, like maintaining the cache, invalidating the cache. All that are the you have to be doing all that versus the performance. Like, is that correct? Like, we should see if it is good to use or not use, right?
Hey, I
Like,
think your
how do
voice is
we
very
invalidate the cache?
low.
The
Yeah.
cache between the how do you sync the data between cache and database? All those have to be taken into account when you're using a cache, correct?
Yes. Obviously, like when you are going to add into the cache and when you are going to discard. So those are the two things that you need to carefully think. Yeah, if you don't know like the way when you are going to add and when you are going to read or remove entries from the cache, I mean, like if there's not a proper strategy, then it's going to hit you. I mean, like the design is not going to work out quite well. So yeah, that's what, like it's adding cache does not mean like it's going to simplify a lot of things. It's also going to add complexity to your system in general. So yeah, so we need to make that decision when you are thinking about adding a cache component to the design.
Okay. I think we have a lot of cache thing, and let's take it up in another 2 minutes, and let's wrap up. So we can close we can formally close the session by 11. So I think we are almost at time. Let me stop the recording then. But thank you so much, Naga and Dipali, for doing this session. Appreciate it, folks.
Yeah, thanks everyone for the feedback.